Yo, Panther guides, huh? They seem to be everywhere. But not like mine. This, right here, is a Panther encyclopedia. I typed out 18 entire pages for this. I have attached the PDF of my entire typed up guide in the description if you want to take a look at it. Quick disclaimer, I will not be talking about Season 1 characters or maps because they are so new and I myself am still learning the matchups. And it doesn't matter what rank you are right now, you might still learn something new. And you most likely don't know who I am or why what I say matters. But know that it does matter because I'm awesome. On a real note though, I climb to eternity, all of my Twitch by the way, you should go check that out, while mostly using Panther. 40 hours worth of Panther. So why don't we go ahead and start off with the very basics of Black Panther. Black Panther has 4 normal abilities, plus a passive ability and a team-up ability that we will talk about later. His main 4 abilities are called Subtle Step, or I'll call it a double jump, his Spear Toss, his Spirit Rend, which we'll be calling his dash, his Spinning Kick, which for simplicity I'm going to call it his E. His spear can travel up to 53 meters before it explodes automatically. His dash will travel 15 meters in a straight line, and his E takes you 15 meters, but you can change direction mid-ability, but it will never change your elevation unless you use it up a ramp. His double jump ability is only available after you climb up a wall. His passive ability is called Panther's Cunning, which once you get to or below 100 HP, you gain a small damage buff. Panther has 2 different kinds of melees. Both of them do 35 damage, but his quick melee is slower than his main attack. His spear does 46 damage to a direct hit, his E does 70 damage, his dash does 80 damage, and his ult does 150 damage in a 20 meter range. His ult can be a little confusing, so let me clear it up. His ult hitbox can be thought of as a giant wall moving in the direction of your crosshair. Even though a cone appears on the floor to show the direction that the hitbox will be moving, the hitbox starts at its full width, so sometimes you can even hit enemies who are next to you. His ult will also refresh your dash cooldown, meaning you should use this to extend your combos whenever you don't have as many cooldowns. Panther's entire kit is based around resetting your dash cooldown. You can do this by hitting an enemy with any of your abilities. This will put a mark above the enemy's health bar, and when you dash an enemy with a mark, you get your dash back online. Panther has a team-up ability with magic. When there is a magic on your team, you gain an extra ability that lets you recall to a previous position and gives you some bonus health based on health that you have lost. This ability is on a 30-second cooldown. Panther's entire kit revolves around him chaining dashes by using the marks his other abilities set on targets. There are 3 basic combos you can perform, and they all revolve around when you use the E during the combo. This combo is using both spears and the E at the end. This combo is the safest, since your E is what makes you most vulnerable. This combo will be your bread and butter. Using the E in the middle of your spears is also a viable option, but you might find yourself getting stunned more often. And starting with the E is almost never viable, and should really only be used when you are caught off guard and need instant movement. The longest combo you can do, including your ult on a single target, is going to be spear dash, E dash, dash, because your ult refreshes it, ult, dash, and by this time your spear might be back on cooldown, so you could add another spear and dash. These are the combos you need to kill the different health states of each squishy.
The king has spoken.
Panther is best used when he can chain dashes off of multiple people. A normal combo will get you around 4 to 5 dashes, but when adding multiple people, you can get way more. The element of surprise will make you way more likely to get kills in value. We can make sure we surprise the enemies by coming from an off angle compared to where the main fight is happening. Most of the better off angles will consist of you starting higher than your targets. The positionings that I'm going to talk about for each map are not end-all be-all. There are obviously several positions I will not go through, and you shouldn't be using these every single time. You should always have a backup plan to switch it up whenever you're getting a little bit predictable. Let's start off with Yggdrasil path. On this first point as Panther on attack, I like to route from spawn to this left door. Using this left door, you can route all the way through, and you'll have access to this high ground. This high ground is way stronger than going on the left side when you'll end up over here, because the enemies, who I will put in yellow, will most likely be over here. When you are set up on this left side, you're going to be way farther from the enemies than if you were here, because you can just drop on them. Also, from here, you can go all the way around and end up through this door, or you can even go farther and end up way farther behind them. So I think a right side path is always best, but once the cart gets a little bit farther, we can also use this statue in the middle as line of sight breaks, or we can even climb up to the platform to get a height advantage if we can find a way behind them, which would most likely be from going all the way around. Attacking second point, what I like to do is I like to climb up this wall and break this window. This will give me access to this entire area. And normally on the start, the enemies are sitting right under or right in front of the bridge. So I can just jump down on them from there. This also gives me access to the health pack. I can drop down and go into the health pack room, which has a door here. So I can access the back line, who could be pushed back all the way over here if the cart is up here. But I would not forget about the right side. The only problem is this space here, as they could see you coming from this angle. But this area has a nice wall that you can use to jump down. Or you can even break line of sight on this one, but it's a little bit tougher because of this little lip. Towards the end of the point here, you will most likely be playing in this area, as if you're coming back from spawn, you can just route down and around. If the cart is up here and the enemies are just trying to stall, it is in your best interest to go around, and you can flank from this side and get anybody stuck over here. But most likely all the enemies are going to be on cart, so that's just going to be a brawl. But if the cart is a little bit farther back, then we can use all this space over here as setup time, because all of their backline is going to be here, looking this way. So if we're up here in this area, we can have an easy dive onto them. And we can easily get from there by going through the health pack and down from this ledge. On the beginning of third point, when the cart is going from this area, you can't do too much if they try to contest in this area, because there aren't many off angles you can get without them seeing you. So most of the time you're going to be waiting until the cart gets to the doorway. And then from there, what I like to do is I'll climb up one of these poles, and then I'll jump over the doorway so they can't see me, and I'll route into this door. You can also go through here to get behind the enemies, but there's a very breakable wall there that ends up breaking a lot. When routing through that door up there, we can either end up in this doorway or this one. If the cart is still very forward up here, the supports are most likely going to be in this general area. So I would say this door is going to be best because you can just run through them. But when the cart is farther, to say up here, what we can do is we can also come all the way around from this side to this doorway, which will give us access to the supports who are most likely here. Or we can even jump down from this area up here. But when the cart is still moving its way through, we can also third-person camera on this doorway to catch out any supports who may be trying to hide in these areas. When starting on defense, there are a couple spots we can defend from off the start. My preferred spot is here, in third-person cameraing this area, but also using my ears to figure out when everybody is walking past me and to find my time to dive. But we can also sit in this doorway, which we won't be able to see anything pretty much at all with our camera. So we're going to have to just listen and find our timing. But I prefer this area because it also gives me access to the very important high grounds behind me. When defending the rest of the point, you can either take the side route to claim the high ground for your team and to get this high ground. But the right side is also very strong for Panther, as all of these doorways will lead out to this bridge or this one. And depending on where the supports are, you can either dive them from here or climb up and dive them from there. So let's not forget about the right side on defense. And then again, when the cart is all the way up, we can still be using the statue to go around wide to fight, or we can just come around up onto the high ground and drop down from either side. And when the cart is all the way at the end, you're most likely either going to be coming from on top of the bridge up here, or from one of these doorways or this high ground. But the easiest option is probably up on this high ground right here. When defending this second point, when the cart is just coming around this corner, or even when the cart comes all the way up here, and if you win the fight, and your team has cart control over here, the supports are going to be back here. This staircase and high ground is very strong for you, as you can jump down from the other side and come under the door, or you can just straight up jump down on them. And the staircase gives you good lines of sight to where you can see them, but they can't really see you. And the height advantage also makes it to where they have to look up to try to find you. Another option is you can also sit in this window up here from this high ground. If you break the window, you can third-person view, and while the enemy tanks are pushing this way and the supports are lagging behind, you can just drop straight down on them. But this one can also be kind of risky unless you use your last dash to dash back into the window. Towards the middle part of this point, we're still going to be utilizing this area to route up into this bridge, as this bridge is still really strong for us. Because we can go from this area, third-person camera, jump down behind the bridge, or even in front. But if the cart is all the way up here, and the supports are past this little gap that's here, from the wall in the bridge is kind of useless to us at this point, and we should be focusing on this high ground right here. And we should be focusing on this high ground all the way up until the cart makes it to the end, or we can even go from the high ground on the right. On defense at the start of third point, you can't really do anything when the cart is here and going up until the cart is around here. Once the cart is around there, the supports might be hanging up over here. And what you can do is you can route through those doors earlier and up the staircase to get behind these boxes. This is a decent position, but it could leave you out if anybody sees you coming from the doorway, which means you'd have to fully reposition. And you can't really go around all the way over here because the front line, who is up here, will see you, and they could communicate to their back line that you were going to be on their left. So I think here, using this high ground is going to be strongest, because you can jump down, you just need to wait for the cart to be pushed a little bit. In this second area, when the cart could be around here, we're going to try to utilize the left side over here to find a position to like climb up this candle thing and get towards the enemies back here. Or we can even go from the doorway over there that we talked about earlier to get to those triple box ledge. And we could get to this high ground here, or we can just jump straight down onto the backline, who, if the cart is there, will probably be here or a little bit farther. Probably a little bit farther. But once the cart is here, we have to be trying to use that ledge at the first part to try and get to this little high ground here, or we can even go back around towards the breakable wall. On this final part, when the cart could be up here, what we're going to want to do is route towards the right side, so we can use this high ground, or we can just go behind the high ground and use it to climb up, depending on where the supports are. This high ground is really strong for us, as it gives us a good angle, and most likely these supports are going to be here and looking forward. The Bifrost Garden on the Yggdrasil Domination map, we're going to want to be utilizing the cliffside, as it has way more walls for us to climb up, and we can route to get to more areas, like this wall or this wall, depending on what side we're on. From here, we can route all the way around, or we can take the longer route. We can also skip straight onto this little triangle to climb up and dive anybody that may be sitting on point. But on this map, we're going to be utilizing the walls to our advantage to get those off angles. We can also sit in these little tree cubbies and climb up to dive anybody that could be walking up here or up here. But we have to be a little wary, as we need the tanks to be a little bit farther up, because if we dive way too early, we'll just get peeled for it and die. The statue area is decent for Panther, as there is this pretty high wall here that we can use to climb. Same on the other side. Or we can even sit on the high ground that the statue has and jump down on anybody from there. But these little walls on the sides we won't really be using all too often, but let's always remember that they're there. And if we really want to get a little bit cheeky, we can also sit in these little areas here while the opposing team is walking out any of these 3 lanes. And we can get a pretty good dive from these walls here. Routing on this map could be a little tricky. What I like to do at the start is I'll route through here, up through that staircase. We'll go around this little glass thing, and this is a breakable wall here. We can break this and we'll end up in this little area. From this is another breakable wall, and we'll end up here. By breaking that wall, we can third-person camera behind it, back here, to see anybody that's sitting in here. If nobody's in there, we can have access to the enemy's side of the high ground. And for here, for this area, we're going to want to be utilizing these little pillars here as a way to gain some height on somebody, as there aren't too many ways we can flank. We're mostly going to be sitting up on this high ground here. We can also utilize these high grounds that are here to third-person camera in one of these corners to see anybody walking up, and we can chase behind them, but we will probably be a little bit slower because of the distance. So these areas are most likely going to be used if somebody is walking down this way to route down towards point. And if nobody does, we can always break these walls, as they are all breakable. On this point, we'll be utilizing these high grounds here to get a dive on anybody that may be sitting back behind these poles. Or what we can do is we can also sit up on the high ground up here to see if anybody's routing through these doors to get to sight. If our team is pushed up a little bit and the fight is happening up here, we want to be utilizing these high grounds here, and we can dive anybody that's sitting back behind. For defense on Tokyo 2099, on the first point, what we're going to want to be doing is sitting up on top of this red scaffolding here, as it gives us a really good angle to look down on the choke point to see when the tanks are moving forwards. And what we can do is we can either dive straight down from here, or we can climb up this wall and double jump over the entire bridge, and we will land back here so we can dive from there. What I like to do when up here is I'll be listening for a strange to use his teleport from spawn. There's only one way they can get out of your audio range, and that's if they go out the side door and walk backwards. But if we do hear him, we can sit up on top of the door over here, as most strangers will normally TP onto this high ground. And from this door we will have a good off angle because everybody will be looking down towards point, and we will be off to the side. I don't like sitting on the top building over here, as the opposing team likes to try to take control of it. And also using this little lip here will put you more towards the main area than if you were to go over the entire bridge or just drop straight down from the boxes. So I don't really like to use this or this area, as it's too far in the open and too close to where the enemies are already looking. Second point is all about utilizing this middle room, as you'll be weaving in and out of these doorways. Even when this breaks and there is no doorway here, you'll still be using this middle room, as it has several doorways over here and one over here, to get jumps on different positions depending on where the backline would be, whether it be here, here, or here. The end of the point can be a little tricky, but we're going to use the bridge here to our advantage, as everybody will be down under the bridge and looking forward. We can either jump down from the bridge, or we can jump over this gap and end up on this high ground. And from there we can either go through this door, or we can just jump straight down from this high ground. And there's also a nice little area here with a wall that we can use to use our third-person camera, and we can jump down from over here. On this third point here, we'll be utilizing this bridge here and the connecting room over here to dive any supports or backline people that may be lagging behind when the cart is a little bit advanced towards this way. And we can even use the bridge later, even when the cart is pressed up a little bit more, as the supports still be lagging behind, but this bridge does get broken a lot, so be wary of that. In this final room, we're going to want to be utilizing this entire wraparound high ground as much as we can. Even though it is in the line of sight, it is going to be kind of hard to get an off angle, as the only side rooms are going to be accessed through either going under or around on the high ground. We can use this door here as a way to get behind the enemies, but it can be kind of predictable as they will watch you walk into this doorway, as this doorway is the only way to get to that one. We can also go through this doorway here on the left, which will put us out towards main over here. But again, they will also see you walking along the high ground. So what you can do is you can use these pillars to your advantage and climb up them to get a very quick height advantage, a very quick and substantial height advantage over them. So they would have to be looking directly up instead of up and at an angle if you were to be up on the high ground. For first point on attack, what I like to do from spawn is route all the way through the left, which will be a path through the buildings, and it'll get you up to this door. What I like to do from here is I'll wrap all the way around behind this back high ground, and then I can take control of this high ground from any backliners who may be sitting up here. And this is way stronger than going from this doorway, as even though the tank is going to be in front of you up here or on this side, maybe even farther, the supports are going to be back on site and you are going to be very far from them. Compared to if you were up on this high ground back here, you just jump straight on them. And most of the time, they will not see you, as the only chance they get to see you is in this little area. And they will be more focused on this way. But you just have to be wary. If they do see you, they will predict where you're going sometimes. And you just have to be wary of that. I also don't like taking this high ground up here for the same reason that I don't like this doorway, as you're super far from them. Unless they have somebody stationed up here, then you can pressure them to get off that high ground, but it's still a little bit dangerous. Also, what you can do is, if you can't go all the way around, you can go behind the scaffolding and climb all the way up to get back on top. And from here, you can either jump back onto this doorway we talked about earlier, or you can just dive straight from here. But this off angle is a little bit worse. Well, it's a lot worse than going from this back high ground, because if the supports are on site and looking forward, if they are all the way back, they will see you up here most likely, compared to you would be behind them over here. So that's why I like to route all the way around. For second point, you're going to want to be utilizing the middle building again, and depending on where they are set up, whether it be here or back here, you're going to want to be using different doors to dive them. So if they're farther up, maybe we use this door, but I always like to choose the door that is further behind them. So this door I would use to dive anybody over here. And if they were in this area right here, I would go out the back door and then dive them all the way over there, because I can use this wall to climb up. Or I can just jump straight down from this ledge. There is also a left path we can go. We can go through this little building here, out over here, and then there's a staircase, and it'll lead us to this little high ground. This high ground can be a very unexpected angle, but it also can be a little bit more dangerous, as if the supports are playing farther back, you are going to be, again, very far from them, and it's going to be really hard to initiate a dive. At the end of this point, what we're going to want to be doing is utilizing this entire bridge, as it'll let us get over the front line and jump down onto the back line when the cart is getting close to the end, because they're going to want to be contesting. And we can do that by going on this side, as it is way safer than going from the other side, as you have to cross this entire area, which will be seen by the enemy's front line. And so if we go on this side, it's less likely that we'll be seen, and we can climb up, and we can either go into this building, which has a couple exits going out this way and that way, or we can just walk onto the bridge and jump down from there. But jumping down from the bridge also will be in line of sight of the supports if they're farther back, so you have to be wary of that. So depending on where the supports are, you're either going to want to just go straight from the bridge or go into the building and take a little bit of a longer path to get a better angle. For the third point, we're going to be wanting to use that jump pad building that's over here to let us get onto this bridge area. And from the bridge, we can either jump straight down, Or we can take a longer route and get to this doorway to go all the way around. And if we don't, there is a door right behind this wall that will also lead us to the doorway over here. And we can just go all the way around from there, or we can go up to the bridge. But if we don't like either of those options, we can route under these buildings, which will lead us to a door here, which will bring us to this doorway, or we can keep going around to get behind this sign. And this could also be an unexpected off angle to use when we switch it up, if we keep getting a little bit pressured up on the bridge. For the third point here, what I like to do is, since the cart is everybody is going to be trying to contest, so what you can do is you can either climb up these poles and jump down onto people, or you can take a staircase back here, which will lead you up to either this door, or you can go a little bit farther to get to this door, and from here you can take advantage of this wraparound high ground and dive anybody from there by jumping down off the side or jumping down off the front. For defense on the first point of Spider Islands, you can set up in a multitude of spots. You can either set up on top of this building, you can set up behind here, you can even set up on this back high ground right here, or you can set up over here. But what I personally do is I'll set up in the doorway of this building and catch anybody that is going this way. As the cart gets around here, the supports could still be standing on it, and I will have mostly a free dive as the tanks will be pushed up under the bridge. But any of these spots will work really good, as long as you find the correct timings for them and know how to get out and live. Other than the starting spot, you'll be using these high grounds as much as you can, because these are what are going to give you the best off angles, including this little one in here, which you can get to by going up the stairs, or you can go over the chasm, which we'll talk about in a second, to get around and to go in. And also these high grounds back here, and this one back here, depending on the different cart states. You can also go all the way around through here or on top of this little building, depending on where the supports could be stationed. Throughout the entire point, you're going to want to be jumping on them from different angles. Kind of like this. This chasm here is easily traversed by Panther, as you can just wall climb up here and double jump, and this will give you an easy flank to go around or to go through onto that bridge. When the cart is towards the end, it's a little bit harder to find an off angle, as it's going to be more of a brawl when your team is trying to contest. But this area can lead to a flank, or you can just jump straight down from this window. Or if coming back from spawn, you could route up top and get to this high ground. But this is going to be in line of everybody's FOV most likely. So you're going to need to route all the way around, which could take longer. So my preferred is to go through this door and take a hard right up these stairs, which will get me behind them through this window. Second point is really tricky for Panther, both on offense and defense. At the start, what we can do is we can go around the right side to get up onto this high ground, which connects to a bridge up here. We can also stand on this little ledge here to give us a nice little jump down. Or we can just use these high grounds over here and jump down from there. And once the cart gets a little bit ahead, we're going to want to be using this main building along with this bridge and this side high ground to dive anybody that could be standing under the bridge or behind it. And when the cart gets a little bit farther, we're going to want to be using this little stone platform to jump down on anybody. Or we can use the building that's connected to it, and we can come out this doorway down here. When trying to contest at the very end, let's always make sure to use this little curved area as a little way to jump up and get a nice little height advantage to get an off angle on anybody that could be sitting on the last part of the point. Or we can even just wrap around it and go from there. The first part of third point is a little bit tricky for Panther. You can either go from this high ground, which can put you out of position, as when you dive them back here, it's going to be kind of hard for you to escape unless you escape down here into this little room. But you can't go anywhere else from that, as if you try to go this way, there's only a jump pad and they can just shoot you out of the sky. And if you try to go forward, you're going to be running into their front line. What you also can do is you can take the long way all the way around to get to this window, which will put you a lot closer, meaning your dives will be a lot faster and harder to react to. Because if you were coming from this ledge, they could react to you jumping, or they could just see you. Like if somebody's coming from this way, they can see you, and they will be able to react and let their team know that you're about to dive. So if you come from this window, it could be a little bit harder, or you could come from this doorway. But this area is also very dangerous, because the enemies will be coming back from spawn into this hallway. For the next part of this point, when the cart is around here, or the enemies are just stationed here, what I like to do is I'll come through this little doorway, and then I'll climb up this wall to get a double jump to go around the pillar here and get a dive. Or you can take the long way around to get to this high ground here. Or you can just initiate from this high ground, but this high ground is not an off angle. And this one can be a little bit harder to get to, as you have to get past the front line either in this area or coming out of this little doorway. For the end here, what you're going to want to be doing is coming around this pillar this way, because the cart will end up in this area, meaning if you can get out towards this direction, you will be behind the enemies who could be trying to fight this way, trying to stop you from contesting. And you could also use the wall here to, again, get a nice height advantage, or you can go down the ramp here if the enemies are stationed even farther back. You can get down the ramp and then dive from there, or you can dive from behind this little wall and just jump around it. For first point on attack, there are 2 easy flank routes you can do. What you can either do is you can come out of this door, take the jump pad, and climb up this wall to get onto this area. This area can be contested, and you have to be wary of that. From there, you go through this building. What I like to do is jump over this door, because there's a little ledge here. You can jump over the door, and they won't see you. And then I'll wrap all the way around to get to this building, in which I can climb up to the top and dive anywhere depending on where the supports are. They could be stationed in any of these spots along this entire path, and you will have a dive on them. Or what you can do is you can go all the way around up onto this little high ground, and you can go across that chasm we talked about earlier to get onto this high ground, and then you can either dive from there, or if the supports are still farther up this way, you can climb up onto this high ground and get an even greater off angle. On the ending of this point, you're going to want to be using this high ground area, including this bridge, as much as possible, as this is the only real off angle you can get, unless your team just want to fight and the cart is about to advance to get it, and the enemies are coming out of this door here. What I like to do is I'll sit in this little area and I'll wait for the tanks to pass me, and then I'll just jump onto anybody that's following. Again, second point here is really tricky for Panther, as this middle building is very destructible, and when it gets destroyed, you're going to lose a lot of your off-angle chances or fast flank availability. But while it's still here, you should use it to your advantage. You can go through it and jump onto this bridge and jump either off the front or off the back, depending on where the back line is. Or what you can do is you can just jump straight from this area to get there. Or what I like to do is I'll break the wall that's here, right on the left, as soon as you get onto the balcony of this building. And that'll let me have access to the entire area. But that's really only when the cart is very progressed, because around this area, the supports are going to be here. What you can do is you can also jump behind this rock, but this is not going to be as great of an off angle, because they're going to be looking this way, and you are coming almost directly the direction they're looking from. You can also take the long way around this way to gain control of this high ground and just jump on them from there. Or again, you can stand on this little roof here and jump down from there, but you could be a little bit out of position here as you aren't fully covered by this roof. Again, towards the end here, we're going to want to be using this middle building a lot, because it'll let us dive onto multiple places, no matter where the supports are. When the cart has progressed throughout this area, and the supports could be back here, what I like to do is I'll take advantage of this little high ground, because I'll be very close to them, and I can initiate a very fast dive, as my team is trying to fight for control to get this last little bit. If that middle building does break, we can always take the long route around, but we have to be very wary of this, because this has a very long setup time. And if they are more towards the bridge up there, it's going to take way longer for us to get there. And then in the last point, we also have to remember that this is available, so we can sit under this little tree and climb up here and dive anybody back here. For the first part of the third point, what I like to do is I'll take the right route, which will let me get to this door or up to this high ground, depending on if I want to climb up or go through. And from here, I can jump down or jump through using my third-person camera on the doorway to find my timing. Or what I can do is I can go through this doorway, which will take me under the main path, back up to the same doorway here. And there I can dive anybody that needs to be dove. If the cart isn't that far yet, we should be using these two doorways, but these fights normally don't last very long, and the cart will progress most likely pretty fast. When the cart is gaining a lot of distance or getting really close to the end, what I'll do is I'll go all the way around the right side because I can get a good angle from the pillars back here. So a lot of people try to use this bounce pad to go back here, but it can be very dangerous as we will sometimes have people positioned on this doorway to get an off angle going this way, and they could see you jump up and they'll be noted that you can only come from the high ground over there behind that little statue. So you just have to be very wary of using this bounce pad on this third point. And it also makes a very distinct noise that they can react to. Again, for a new angle, we'll be going all the way around to use this pillar as cover to get around or to double jump up through. And if we were to take the jump pad, we would be over here on this high ground, which can be good if we can get there without the enemy knowing. But if they do know, they can always just back up and take one of these fights at a time. And if we try to jump them while they're taking my fight instead of my team's fight, then I die. But this is very unlikely as people don't do this as much, singling you out instead of fighting your whole team. This map is probably the worst for Panther, as there are so many open spaces and it can be kind of hard to flank from. But this map specifically can be made a little bit better by, during your downtime, you can ask your team to help break this middle pillar here, which will get rid of this high ground in the middle. But what it will do, will also pull up these walls here and give you extra line of sight breaks and also something else to climb up on each side. And for this map specifically, what you're going to want to be doing is using these side rooms over here and down here and up here to find your flanks as they connect to other rooms either behind the enemies back over here, or this one has a little staircase that will go up to a door that I will show in just a second. The cliffside here, you can either use the jump pad to go up onto the high ground here, and you can go down this ramp to a door to get to a flank, or you can go the lower way and you can try to LOS on the little green slope here and just dive from there. But you have to be a little wary because the tanks will normally be right at the top of here if the fight is happening at that doorway to get towards side. The other side room here connects towards this doorway, which can be useful if the enemy tanks are already towards point and the supports could be hanging out in these areas trying to help out. But most likely, if what we talked about earlier in breaking these walls will come up and the supports won't be this far because they won't have LOS to see directly through them. So they'll most likely be on the side here or just on point. So we have to be a little bit careful with going all the way around this way. For this point here, whenever the point opens, there are walls that come up on the point, which is decent for you as you can use them to get a little slippery and be a little unexpected on point. But other than that, there aren't too many flank options as the high grounds are very far from point. So if your dive targets are on point, you have to go this entire distance. But if they are not and they are down below and you can flank towards the enemy's high ground here, you can just jump straight down on them and that's pretty good. When fights are happening in this room that comes just out of the spawn, what I like to do is I will sit in the doorway of here on the other side after it's broken so I can use my third-person camera to find anybody trailing out and then I can flank them from there. Coming out of spawn, there are 3 ways to go. Most people, when getting towards the middle room to fight, they will go up this way. But for Panther, it is a lot better to go up this staircase as it'll put you behind the health pack that's up there. And whenever your whole team goes up here, I still think it's best to go into this room. But you have to be a little bit careful as you don't want to be seen trying to get a flank if the enemies are trying to press this middle room. For this point, we're going to want to be using this wraparound high ground that goes all the way around. There is a gap towards the middle, but Once the middle rock falls, which it normally does, we can still climb around and up, and this will be a ledge right here that we can use to dive down on a point. When it isn't broken, what I like to do is after a fight is I will ask my team to break the opposing team's pillar so it becomes a ramp, and then I can have my team play up there and I can play on the opposite side. Or if you don't want to do that and you want to stay up there solo, you can either take one of the jump pads on the sides, or you can just climb straight up and jump down on the high ground. For first point on Hall of Jolly, there are two decent spots you can stand in when going to defend. You can either stand here in this corner on the bridge and catch anybody that is going to peek main if the entire team is going through the little room right there. Or what you can do is you can also sit over here in these bushes. And both of these spots are pretty good as it lets you hear if the enemy strange is teleporting. And if you do, you can react accordingly and reposition. If the enemy strange does teleport, they normally do it somewhere in this room. So when I hear it, when I'm over on the bridge or if I'm over in the bushes, so what I will do is I will sit on this wall or in this little cubby, depending on how much time I have to get there. And if I can't make it to the wall, I'll just sit in the cubby and wait for people to pass me. For the rest of the point, you're going to want to be utilizing the bridge in this connecting room, along with this high ground over here and this high ground to dive anybody on point. And most likely the supports might still be main if the enemies went through main, so you're going to want to be using the high ground on the opposite side over here, and you can come down from the bridge area. But if the supports are down towards this room, you can also get up onto the high ground up here and jump down from there. Second point, in the beginning is a little bit tricky for Panther, as this whole space where the card is going is pretty open. But what we can do is we can use the enemy's high ground over here as a way to start behind them, but you have to be careful because the enemies will be walking this way when coming out of spawn. Or what we can do is we can use this door here or this door over here to wrap all the way around to get to this doorway, which will let us get behind the enemies. Or we can use the main building here and come out this doorway to fight them. Or we can even sit up on this little high ground and jump down on them whenever they pass. For the rest of the point, we're going to be utilizing the main middle building for most of it, as it is way more accessible than the right side over here, as you'd have to cross some sort of line of sights to get there. In this middle point, we can either go all the way around, which could take some time, or we can come up from this window and jump down on anybody here, or it also connects up towards this bridge, which we can also use to jump down on anybody depending on where the supports are. This high ground over here is also usable, as the roof here is destructible, so you can stand up on there and get a jump down on anybody, but again, it can be very dangerous as you do need to cross lines of sight to get up towards the roof. For the first room in third point, you're going to want to be utilizing this high ground room and hallways over here, as you can jump down from this high ground or this doorway or over here, depending on where the back line is. And it's way more secluded than going from the opposite side, and it's also way closer because the cart takes this path to go through. And routing from spawn, you can get there without hitting any line of sight checks, compared to if you were to try to go down towards the middle behind me. In this final room, you're going to want to be utilizing all of the side hallways that go throughout this room to find different angles to attack from. And also, this map has a special property in which sometimes the rooms will be filled with smoke or mist, and you can use this to your advantage by using it to get to a better position without having to cross any line of sights because they can't see you, but you also cannot see them, so you would have to use your ears to listen to figure out when you should dive or peek out of the smoke to find your dives. On attack, there are two ways you can route. You can either route all the way towards the left and go around towards that high ground on point, or what I think the better option is you can route towards the right, climb up this pillar here, and gain access to this high ground. When you're routing towards the left and you get towards this high ground, the supports or the backline most likely are stationed on this one, so you're going to have to take that extra time to go through the bridge and around the building to get to them, as this distance is way too far for Panther. But if you were to route towards the left and take this high ground, all you need to do is just jump down on them. Again, for the first part of the second point, it is a little bit tricky for Panther, as sometimes the rest of the enemy team will be routing up this way to get towards where the cart is going to be going, which is up through that way. If we want to try to catch people out, we can use this high ground and jump down on them, but it can be a little bit tricky because the enemies can see you. It's not very closed off, and the line of sights are very easy to be seen in. Or what you can do is you can go through this left door and route through towards a door over here, or this doorway up here. Again, towards the end of this point, we're going to want to be utilizing the middle building, as it has this window here, which we can use to dive anybody that's under us, or we can go up to this bridge here and jump off of either side to dive anybody, or we can even go all the way around the building and we'll end up behind this pillar, which we can again use to climb up and jump down on anybody that could be behind the bridge. Towards the first part of the third point, we're going to again be utilizing these doorways as we were on defense, because they have really close jump downs towards where the supports could be stationed. But you can also go a little bit deeper into these hallways back here to get a nice little flank going. And for third point, I think the left hallway is going to be better than the right one, as the right one does not connect back into their spawn. There's actually a wall here. So I think going around the left side is better, but it also is a little bit different because once the cart is here, everybody's going to be trying to stall on point, and it's going to be a little bit of a brawl. So we just have to be understanding that we're not going to get the best off angles if everybody's just trying. On Clintar, when defending, what I like to do is I will start up near this high ground, specifically on this wall, so I can see if anybody is coming through this path to try to take this high ground from me. And if nobody does, what I can do is then I can station up towards this corner as the enemies are funneling through here, and I can just jump down on anybody that is from the backline and behind the tanks. When defending the point, you should be utilizing all available side areas, as they all can be used pretty well to dive on anybody. And you can even use the boxes in the middle as little line of sight clears. A really popular room would be this one on the right, as it has several doors leading out towards the main path, and you could catch out any supports that are lacking behind, or the backline might be sitting in here and you come from the high ground and go through that door to catch them off guard. When defending on the second point, there are several high grounds you can utilize to just jump down on people as the card is progressing, but there are also side hallways that will lead you to doorways that you can use to just walk behind the enemies. And I would still, again, just walk through the map, figure out what hallways go where and where the health packs are. For the end of second point, you're going to want to be utilizing these hallways that go around on the right to get around the enemies, as this doorway will stop there unless you go out the left side and you come out on the bridge over here. Here is the doorway you would come out if you went out the left from your spawn over here. Third point defending, you're going to want to be sitting on this rocky side for most of the point, if not all of it, as it has the most cover that you can move around. And there's also a health pack down under this rock, which you can use to climb back up to get to the high grounds up here. And all you need to do is just jump down on them, or you can climb up onto one of these little platforms and jump down from there, or you can even just go all the way around depending on where they are. Even towards the end, I normally stick towards this rocky side, as it gives me more cover than if I were to try to go around the tree. But the tree is still a valid option, as it gives you some cover. You just have to be careful of getting past this little line of sight area, as people will be looking this way and they could see you flank and they would already know. And that is why I go around this side. So I have so much cover and I can jump down on them pretty easily from any angle I want. When attacking the first point, I think it is best to route towards this area to get towards this high ground. From here, there's a door on this side where you can drop down, and then you can get to a doorway up here. What I like to do is I will jump over this doorway so I'm not seen, and then from there I can take this high ground in the back. Once I take the high ground in the back from the enemies, I have so much control, as I'm now pushing all of the enemies towards this side so that they're farther away from me diving them. But what I can do is I can just wrap all the way around and then come out this doorway. If they are still closer to me, say over here, all I need to do is just jump on them and then I can escape through this way, as there is a health pack right there. Second point is really tricky to get a hang of, but it is really strong for Panther, as there are so many side rooms. I would advise you, if you were to go through any of the points, to just walk through this one and find where all the hallways lead to and which hallways have health packs and whatnot. But for instance, this left hallway, you can either go all the way and climb up and it'll come over here, or there is a little doorway back here that you have to get across to get to the high ground. Or you can go on the left side, which will lead you to this high ground up here, or a couple of doorways more down there. When attacking the last part on second point, there are several little doorways you can get to by taking off routes, including this one down here on the bottom right. And you can use this high one up here to jump down, which would be on the left side of the cart path, because the cart comes through here. Or you could take the bridge that forms over here from the symbiote, and it'll make you fall down into this little room where you can just dive from this room. You have to be careful with this room on the left, because that is where the enemies are coming from spawn, most likely, unless they route towards this right room. Attacking on third point is pretty much the same as defending, just switching the sides. You're still going to want to be hanging out on this rocky area, as you can climb up onto any of these little platforms, and you can jump down on the supports or backline no matter where they are. And you can go around this little cave thing, but it is a little bit worse, as coming out on this side will put you in a lot of lines of sight if the supports are a little bit farther back. Attacking on third point, it really depends where the supports are. If the supports are more pushed up towards this area, what you're still going to do is stay on this rocky cliff side, and you can even go around towards their little structure back here. But sometimes they could have people stationed back here, in which this is when the time to go around the tree is here. And you can also exit back towards the tree, break this little symbiote, and it will spawn a wall so that nobody can follow you. On this point in Hydra's base, on the domination map, what you're going to want to do is be using this wraparound high ground mostly, whenever you are trying to take a point. But when fighting down in these little doors, there are a bunch of side rooms you can go to. When the fights are happening in this general area, you should still be using this high ground up here, but you have to be wary as the point does move. It will move to be in front of this door, so it's going to make your dives a little bit different. And also, speaking of this door, you should always be breaking it at the start and going through to get to the high ground that's right behind it. This is the high ground room behind the two doors. And what you want to do is you want to take this high ground control off the start. If nobody pressures you, that's fine, because you gain access to the wraparound high ground on point. But if somebody does pressure you, you really want to own this high ground, as your entire positioning pretty much revolves around this wraparound high ground over here. On Super Soldier Factory, you're going to want to be utilizing the high ground that's here, as you can jump towards the pillars and climb up them, or you can get to the opposing high ground to just jump straight down on anybody that may be sitting in front of these doors. After one fight, the enemies have to come from their spawn through this area to get to a point. What I will do is I will sit on top of this staircase area, and I will third person view down, or just listen for when all the tanks have passed and the supports are starting to pass, and then I will just dive down from here. You can also sit in this doorway, which is in the same spot as that ramp that I showed earlier, as the supports and all the backline still have to come through this way, and you can just jump over the rail after the tanks have passed, and you can dive them from there. On this point, you're going to want to be utilizing the high ground in all the rooms that connect to it. The high ground does move, and sometimes the platform gets extended out here, but it's still all the same, as you're still going to want to be utilizing the high ground, so you can jump down onto anybody no matter where. You can also climb up this wall to get even more distance. But if you're not on this side, what you can be doing is you can be sitting on these little high grounds here, and you could be climbing up these walls to go around and jump down on anybody that could be more towards these walls. When routing off the start, you can get to that high ground very easily by climbing up this wall and doing a double jump down here, or you can just walk to point and there's a ramp that'll go all the way up. This door will lead to a jump pad that will take you all the way up. And also, after one fight, when our team could be pushing up in this little area, forcing them to go through us here, what you can do is you can sit on this gem side and just dive anybody that's from the back line. I'm going to keep it very honest, and this may seem lazy, but I don't think there is a better resource to learn about diving than watching the BP man himself, Karkat's Guide on How to Dive. So go watch it really quickly. You watched it yet? Good. But there is still one thing I would add to this though, and that is thinking about your survivability. If you can get out of your engages with your life, you will see more value because you have more time to dive instead of waiting for your respawn timer. All you need to do is think about exit plans, and if you die, who can you take with you to make it more favorable? Not all 1-for-1 trades are equal or valuable to your team. To start off the advanced tech, we have the Karkat patented floor dashes. This is a concept in which you look down at the ground to reduce the distance your dash will travel. The steeper the angle you look, the less distance you go. This is very useful as dashing through someone can cause you to be out of range for your next dash depending on how the enemy is moving, but the floor dash will keep your distance close to them. This next tech is called the Chasm combo. This combo is spear, spear, dash, dash. This combo is used to kill only 250 HP targets. It will not kill anybody over that either have a really important ult for the fight or a resource to shut down your dives. By using this combo, you are forcing yourself to leave by using your E because dashing the second time will not reset the cooldown. Another thing you should be doing in your combos is weaving in and out main attacks during your abilities. This can squeeze out just a little bit of extra damage or put you above a damage threshold to let a smaller combo kill a higher HP target. To start off the matchups, we're going to be going with tanks first, and the first tank is Captain America. We have to be wary of his shield because it reflects our spear. We have to throw it around the shield for the splash damage on our spear to mark him. He is very fast and slippery and could be very easy to miss his dash reset, and you have to respect his presence if he pushes you out of position. He has very high escape potential, very low dive priority. Doctor Strange. His shield will block your spear from marking him, and you can barely throw the spear around the shield if he's facing you. He can immediately fly to get out of your effective range. His ult is really powerful CC. He will outrange you, and has decent escape potential. Also very low priority. For Groot, you won't normally be dealing with him all that much. He can wall you to block your dashes, and can outrange you by 5 meters. No escape potential, but still really strong. Very low priority. Hulk. He has an AoE bubble that will keep you from getting dash resets if applied to your target. Has a CC ability that will counter your dives in his exile. Although a very small chance, he can catch you out of the air at the beginning of your dives, which will stun you and probably end with your death. He has insane escape potential and you will not catch him if he wants to leave. Very low priority. Bruce Banner has 200 health and will die from the double spear double dash combo or one spear dash E in melee. Very low escapability, but he can boop himself with his shift to dodge a dash or CC you with it. High priority dive target. Magneto. Magneto has a shield that will eat your spears and you have to throw around the shield to mark him. He can bubble teammates to stop you from getting marks or getting dash resets. If the rings on his back are fully charged, his alternate fire will CC you out of a dash if hit properly. His ult will eat your spears if thrown within range, which is really big. He will outrange you. He has no escapability, but his bubbles have to be played around and you have to wait out the cooldowns to get your dash resets. Very low priority. Penny Parker. She has a CC ability on a 3-second cooldown. Her spider nests are hard to deal with because you don't have the range potential to break them. If a target is within Penny's webs, mines can be hidden around to deal massive damage. She will outrange you, and big escapability with her Cyber Bond ability on a 3-second cooldown, as well as her Cyber Web Snare CC on a 3-second cooldown. Very low priority. Thor. His Lightning Realm will slow your movement down if you dash through it. He can outrange you, but he normally won't. And decent escapability with his Storm Surge ability. Very low priority. Venom. You can't really do anything meaningful to Venom as he has way too much survivability and escapability. Probably the lowest priority out of all of the characters.
Now we move on to the duelists. Black Panther's first, and the Black Panther 1v1 is a little bit tricky, as you don't really want to be peeling for your team when he's diving, as he'll get more dash resets than you will. But if it's a secluded 1v1, you still have to be careful, because he can dodge your dash resets by using his movement abilities. Low priority. Black Widow. CCs with her kick ability, has very high damage potential, you have to position very carefully. Can one-shot combo you if she lands a headshot. Be patient, she has movement options, but can't get out of your range fast enough, and her ult will slow you by a lot if hit by it. High priority. Hawkeye. He can CC you with his crescent slash ability. He can one-shot you with a headshot. He can slow you down with his hypersonic arrow. And you gotta be a little patient as he can dodge dashes with his double jump. Has high damage AoE explosive arrows. And his ult will make it very easy to kill you. So you should not dive him when he's ulting. Medium high priority. Hella. Very high damage potential. Easily CC you with her soul drainer ability. Bait out her astral flock ability. And you can still catch up to her no matter which direction she chooses to go. You just have to be a little bit careful waiting for the bird to end. You can also disengage and re-engage after her astral flock, since your cooldowns are faster by 4 seconds. You can also dive her to bait out her ult in an unfavorable position, like in a building. High priority. Iron Fist can block your spears with his Dragon's Defense ability, which powers up his punches. If you miss a dash reset, you can't really disengage as he's way too fast and will catch you. He can block damage from your dash, but you will still get a reset, and he can out-heal your entire combo if he gets his healing ability started. He can slightly boop you with his kick, but you will still get a dash reset. Low priority. Iron Man. Unless you can juggle a flyer confidently, you should avoid him. He will outrange you unless you sneak up while near surfaces to climb. When diving him, it's the most important to hit the first spear. If you can hit the first spear, you can get a dash reset and immediately use your E and then dash him again and he will die. Very low priority. Magic. Can dodge all of your abilities, including your ult, with one ability having 2 charges. If using Stepping Disc to dodge your dash, you can get a reset, but you will do no damage. Very low priority. Moon Knight can CC with his Unk. He can grapple straight down to the ground and double jump out of effective range. Medium high priority. Namor. His turrets can be annoying, but I would not call them a hard counter. But when paired with Luna Snow, the slowing turret becomes much harder to deal with, and you might just want to wait that out. Your main goal is baiting his bubble, because your cooldowns are twice as fast as it. He has high damage with his turrets and his big trident, and his ult disables movement abilities in its area. Medium high priority. Psylocke. She can kill you in less than 2 seconds if she hits her combo properly. High maneuverability makes dash resets difficult. She can go invisible, so you lose track of her, and she has very high escapability. Low priority. Scarlet Witch. Her main weapon tracks you, so she doesn't have to aim, and she has an escape option, and if she flies straight up, you cannot catch her as she'll go out of your range. Medium priority. Spider-Man. He has excessive movement potential, meaning you can do little against him. His Get Over Here ability CCs any move, including your ult. Very low priority. Squirrel Girl. 275 HP target. She will CC you with her Squirrel Blockade ability. She can escape effective range with her tail bounce, plus her Mammal Bond, which will give her a second tail bounce. She can chain CC you using the Mammal Bond for a second CC ability, and her CC stuns all abilities but your ult. Medium priority. Star-Lord. He can dodge all attacks with one ability, which has 2 charges. He can fly out of effective range, and his ult is lethal due to speed and ease of use. Low-medium priority. Storm. For her team, she is best near the ground, and she is slow with limited movement options, which makes it easier to juggle than Iron Man. She does gain speed with Goddess Boost and in Wind mode, and she has no CC. You can juggle her if you're confident in juggling flyers. Low priority. Punisher. 275 HP target. His turret blocks marks from your spear unless thrown at a greater than 90-degree angle from the front of the turret. Your ult and spinning kick bypass the turret to set a mark, and your dash will also bypass the turret to get a dash reset. His shotgun will take you down to 20 HP if hit for a max shot, so all he has to do is melee you after to kill you. He can use his zipline to escape really fast, but it takes a long time for it to set up and you can most likely kill him before then. He is actually very vulnerable while ulting if you have the proper position to dive him, as he has to track you to kill you and you are very fast. High priority. Winter Soldier. 275 HP target. Strong CC can pull you out of all abilities, even your ult. He has a movement option, but it's not very great and he can't escape from you. When he's ulting, you should know where he is, because if he targets you, you can dash out of the range, so he doesn't get any more ults. And he gains extra health with ability use. Medium priority. Wolverine. 350 HP target, high survivability with his healing factor, or his second life. His Undying Animal grants damage reduction. He can escape your effective range very easily. He can CC you with his Feral Leap ability. Very risky to dive if he's nearby his team. And your diving goal for him is to put his passive healing factor on cooldown, and then disengage. low priority. Now time for the healers or strategists. First we have Adam Warlock. His Soul Bond ability is the main thing you're diving him for. You want him to burn this cooldown because it is a 30-second cooldown. If he gets a lot of his teammates in his Soul Bond, you're basically going to be doing 0 damage. If he is alone, he can use his burst healing on himself, which gives him an effective health pool of 550 health. High priority. Cloak and Dagger. She can put her Dagger Storm ability or her bubble on her feet to give her massive constant healing. Cloak can blind you with his Terror Cape. He also has the ability to go invisible and fly away for a short period of time. If Cloak and Dagger ult, you should definitely disengage. You cannot kill anybody if they're standing in it, especially if she stacks the pools. High priority. Jeff. He has very high survivability with his hide and seek ability and his bubbles. He can wall climb very fast, his bubbles will CC you, stopping your dash when he collects them, and diving him can be a very big waste of time because of his survivability. Low medium priority. Loki. He can go invisible, which will make him really hard to track. He can put down an immortality field on each of his clones, making you do 0 damage. His clones will give you dash resets, so you can use them as a bank to get resets or to give you bonus health whenever you need it. And he can swap with any of his clones at will, making him harder to track, but if he is marked, the mark will stay on him. Medium high priority. Luna Snow. 275 HP target. She has a CC ability that is hard to hit. You should be wary of it, but don't be scared of it. The CC can stun you out of all of your abilities. Her Smooth Skate passive gives her a speed boost and a jump boost after a short duration when moving forward. This can make her a harder target to hit and get dash resets on. If she ults, disengage. You cannot out DPS her ult. You should try to find somebody staggered outside of the range. High priority. Mantis. 275 HP target. She has a really good CC that is very easy to hit. You should be scared of her CC. When her HP is full, she gets a speed boost, making her a little bit harder to hit. And when she ults, you should disengage, as you cannot out DPS a Mantis ult. High priority. Rocket. He has very high survivability, with his healing orbs that will heal himself and his wall run. He has 2 charges of a jetpack dash that will let him escape from your effective range. When you're flanking, you should try to find his respawn beacon while positioning to stop the enemy from respawning fast. He can also be a waste of time diving because he is very fast. Medium priority. You are now a certified Panther nerd. You are a nerd for watching this entire thing. What are you doing? You had that much time to learn about Panther? I'm proud of you. Good job. Now get out there and get good.